Nigeria has been tightening enforcement on its tax identification policy, requiring individuals and businesses to present a valid tax ID for activities such as opening bank accounts, participating in capital markets, and conducting certain government transactions. While the move is aimed at boosting compliance, broadening the tax base and curbing illicit financial flows, it raises questions about implementation efficiency and how Nigeria's approach compares with, other African countries that are also modernizing their tax system. Well, join us on Package Drive from Molola Ambrose, the Senior Associate, Strennan Bland Partners, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. All right, so yeah, great to have you on Molola. So let's see, how other African countries, are managing their, tax systems. You see the likes of Kenya there. They have the personal identification number. Is mandatory for banking, land transfers, stock market participation, vehicle registration, and government services. But the difference with Nigeria is Kenya has been more successful in linking tax IDs to everyday financial services, thanks to the mobile money penetration like M-Pesa. We have the same thing in Ghana. They have the tax identification number. It's mandatory for the important things too, but they're able to add that to their national identification system there. So, definitely we have different, approaches, and, some countries have been doing this for a while now. So, talk to me about the situation we have right now. Everyone's waiting for 2026 on, how to comply, with the new rules that are coming. So what do you think businesses, households in Nigeria should be doing right now to prepare for 2026?
Okay. Thank you very much, Laddie, for having me here. So the very first thing I want everybody to note is that the tax identification is not anything new. We've had it in, as stated already in Section 4 of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, NTAA. We've already had this previously in 2019 by the Finance Act, where Section 28 actually amends Section 49 of the Personal Income Tax, and it states that any taxable person who would be involving in who would get involved rather in a transaction would need a tax identification number, a tax ID, right? However, the difference here now is there's a lot of emphasis on it, which means that it's now a must for the purpose of also harmonizing the different kind of identifiers we have. We have the national identity number. We also have, that's for individuals. We also have the company's registration number. That's for companies. But what makes the tax identification number in this sense very unique right now is that the government is trying to bring every taxable person into the tax net and to ensure that low income earners they are not taxed, right? And as the president of the fiscal committee, has always spoken about, he said that these tax reforms is to protect those in the lower bracket, those that are not earning as much. So actually, when it comes to the tax identification number, and also other countries, right? I would want to use Ghana as an example, and yes, why? So Ghana during the government of Akufo-Addo, they had the Ghana card. Yes, even prior to that, they actually had the Ghana card. And the Ghana card was more like, it was an integrated system. So it had all of the identifiers in one. But prior to that, they had the tax identification number, where individuals and companies alike would get to pay their taxes through this tax identification number, or whether you're a company or an individual. However, now with the card, that is with the Ghana card, everyone, all you just need is your national identity number, and that already serves as your tax ID. But the truth is that with Ghana, yes, it's now something that is that's still a process. It's still in process. It's not something that has been finalized. We still have individuals that are yet to get on board, and they are still onboarding. Yes, and I want to believe that this is what the president of the fiscal committee, in person of Mr. Taiwo Yedele, what he had in mind when he said that the national identity number would also be used for individuals as their tax identity number. Now, what exactly do we require of businesses as a tax consultant? What I would simply tell businesses to do is, first and foremost, when you have your company, when you register your company, the CAC is supposed to you're supposed to have a tax identification number, which also doubles as your tax ID. However, when that is not on your document, you have to get to the closest FIRS station, go along physically with your incorporation document to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And then when you get there, you could get your tax identification number, which also doubles as the tax ID. Also, for individuals, your national identity number is still the tax ID, right? So all you simply need to do is probably for harmonization process, you can log on to your state internal revenue service. For us in Lagos, here we have that as etax.lirs.net, and where you can get to register for and get your and use your NIN as your tax identity number. But for companies, right, you can go to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, or even you could also get it registered on JTB, that's the Joint Tax Board, by the tin.jtb.gov.ng.
Right.
So now let me go back to other countries. Yes, let me go back to other countries.
Sorry to stop you there, but
now, I guess for other countries.
Yeah, I guess we have nothing to worry about as businesses and households. Since we're even seeing other African countries, at this point they're still trying to get to their target. When it comes to getting everyone in the tax net.
Yes. So like I gave the example of Ghana. I said Ghana is still ongoing. Not everybody has been onboarded such that their national identity number is very same as the tax identity. So it's still a process. It's still a process. So, and I want to believe that this is what the president of the fiscal committee had in mind when he said that the national identity number would be the same as the tax identity number, the tax ID. So all we all need to do is just for a verification, is just to regularize, right, as we put in legal parlance. And one thing we must also realize, it's not just Nigeria and it's not just Ghana. Even for Kenya, yes, even for Kenya, what we have for Kenya now is what is known as the Udumba number. That's what they do have, and it is supposed to be like a unifier. However, just like the Ghana card for Ghana. However, there's one thing we need to do. If the Udumba number has not been successfully been able to onboard everybody, it's still a process. So I think all we need to do as for individuals, right? We just need to be patient that for those of us who are yet to have our national identity number, but then we are carrying on business and engaging in transactions, we should just understand that we would also be onboarded. So like I said, you can go on to the state agency or even the JTB, that's the Joint Tax Board, and just for the harmonization process. So at this point, I think what it calls for is cooperation with the fiscal committee, with the federal government. So because it's still a process across all boards.
All right, definitely we'll still keep watching, and I guess at this point just consult the tax experts so that you're better situated as a business or household. But thank you so much. It was great having your perspective, Omolola Ambrose, the senior associate, Stren & Bland partners. We always need to hear from the professionals at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.